Hello, good evening, and good day, everyone, and welcome to the Ask Abhijit show. This is episode 367. I hope you're all doing great, and we're going to discuss a variety of topics today as per the questions that you ask. And before we get into your questions, let us see who all is there on the live stream this fine evening with us. Aditya Acharya, America Wale Shri Bhure Chacha, Rus Wale Shri Putin Chacha, and so on. Ranuna Hapana Hill Bharatvarsh, Cosmic Lab, Rishabh Chaudhary, Rohan Bidi, happy Friday to you, sir. Just some nut 19, namaste, sir. SKR7733, Vinay Joshi, Global Danta, Ashwini Sharma, Shubh Sandhya ji, Pratar Dana, namaste, sir. Abhishek Shukla live. Who else do we have? Oh, who is here from Kanpur? Thank you, sir. The Eternal Witness, Har Har Mahadev, yes. Vinay Joshi, once again, late for workout. Okay. Priyanshi Sood, Om, the Feminist Slayer, hello. Abhyuday Singh, Somi0709 from Jaipur, good to have you. Jarobat is here from Beijing. Well, good to have you from Beijing. GK87, namaste. Lovish Thind, good evening. Anup is here from Pune. Thank you, sir, for being here. The Feminist Slayer, once again, user 44. Who else do we have? Rahul Dunake, Aryan Sharma. Namaskar, Rahul Dunake. Anonymous I6Q. Nigya X, hello. Avish Reddy, hello. Rishabh Chaudhary, once again. Khushbu R, namaskar. Humanity Survives, good evening. Happy Friday to you. Vench Acharya. Gurudat Marathe. Albert Davis, good evening. Business Die, okay. Business, okay. Hardik Joshi, Ayush Pandey, Avish Reddy, Kahan, namaste from Sakit Delhi. All right. Sai Origin. The Hell Dragon, Mohan Krishna, Ankita Kuchap, good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Good to have you. Harshay, Kemcho indeed. Yes. Mehul, Rajesh Babu, good evening. Shiv Shankar is here from Caste. Well, that's there's something been brewing on Twitter, I believe, on X between India and China, and it looks like it's a complete Indian victory. Ashwamed from Diego Garcia and so many other people. Okay, so let's get going with some questions. MG Prajwal is here from Karnataka. Shivang is here from Nong caste. Chinese caste system, is there one? Okay. Uh, Chinese caste system. Nigya is here from Chennai. Captain Saurav is here from Navi Mumbai. Shrivat S. Iyer is also here. Safed Booth is here. And Avirul Gandhi, Noor Sheikh, good evening. Good evening, Ayush Pandey. Ayush Pandey is selected in the Merchant Navy. Should you opt for BTech Marine Engineering? You got a good rank. Well, if it makes sense to you should go for it. I don't know you personally, so I can't really answer with sufficient knowledge. So if it makes sense for you for your long term goals and all, do go for that. Yes, if you got good marks and all that, good rank. Okay, let's get going with some questions. What questions do we have before we get into the super chats? Let's see something else. Let's take some regular questions. Ni hao, SKR, ni hao. What's my caste? Shi Nong Gong Shang. I'm not aware of what my caste is according to the Chinese caste system. Shi Nong Gong Shang. I haven't studied the Chinese caste system, but looks like they have a pretty entrenched, a pretty brutal caste system, and that's been hidden away for quite some time. Yeah, looks like they have some. Yeah, there's a lot brewing under the surface when it comes to China. And in recent times, I mean, this week I've been traveling a lot, and I've kind of missed the action on Twitter. I'm traveling tomorrow also, but looks like I've missed the action on Twitter, and there's been a whole war brewing, and it's been a complete one-sided Indian victory. The Chinese, okay, so there's apparently this caste system, Shi Nong Gong Shang. I don't know where I would fit in there, but interesting, right? Yes, okay. Just some nutses. Can we say that Iran actually won this war in all aspects, apart from the condition that they will stop building a nuclear bomb? And will they stay true to this condition and won't enrich uranium? Okay, so let's talk about the end of this war. It looks like there's an end to the war, or is there not? That's the question. So first of all, there's this fantastic city in France. It's called Versailles. Versailles. Okay, so Versailles is a pretty interesting city. I mean, it's got very interesting historical background. I'm not going to go into the history of the city, but what happened in this city, Versailles, in 1919? There was the Treaty of Versailles that put an end to the First World War, and Germany was found guilty of everything under heaven and earth, and they were found guilty and they were made to pay reparations. It was a humiliation for Germany, the Treaty of Versailles, and it is precisely the Treaty of Versailles that gave rise to the conditions for the Second World War, the humiliation that Germany was forced to swallow, the Treaty of Versailles. Germany is essentially the surrender, right? So, a couple of days ago, Mr. Trump signed a new treaty in Versailles, a MOU. I think Mr. Trump has no understanding of history. You don't surrender in Versailles. The United States lost the war to Iran, right? The war that was started by Israel, and Israel dragged the US into it, 28th of February. The United States has been defeated. Not alone, but with Israel. Both Israel and the US attacked Iran, and both have been defeated. Right? The US wanted a regime change. Trump wanted a regime change. Netanyahu wanted a regime change. But what have they had to do? Netanyahu has stayed away, but Trump had to sign the document. So is this a total victory for Iran? What are the terms of this deal? What's been happening? Okay, so let's see. Let's find out what's the deal. What are the terms of Trump's surrender? Okay, so let's do a comparison. In 2015, the US President, Mr. Obama, okay, he had this JCPOA agreement, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that he signed with Iran. And now today, Trump has signed a new deal, MOU, this year. So let's compare. So according to Obama's deal, the total amount of unfrozen Iranian assets was 1.7 billion. For Trump has given 25 billion. Okay, he has unfrozen 25 billion worth of Iranian assets. As per the JCPOA, there was to be a 98% reduction in Iran's nuclear stockpile, uranium stockpile. Trump, no agreement. JCPOA, Iran's enrichment program was to be capped at 3.7%. 3.7% highly enriched uranium or whatever. Trump, no agreement. As per JCPOA, the sanctions on Iran remained in place. As per Trump, the sanctions have been lifted. As per the JCPOA, Obama's JCPOA, the Hormuz Strait was completely open. There was no restrictions. There was no tolls. Now, the Hormuz Strait is going to be reopened with Iranian and Omani control and tolls. The American lives, JCPOA, obviously no American lives were lost. Trump, the official number is 15, which I don't believe, but okay. And injuries and so on. Direct costs to get to this deal, cost of diplomacy for Obama and for Trump, over $100 billion have been spent in this war, which Trump lost. Additional geopolitical risk greater than COVID-19, according to this analysis. Additional costs, 300 billion for reconstruction is what Trump is giving away to Iran. And for Obama, it was just a few millions for oversight and monitoring. Global financial cost to reach the deal for Obama was minimal. For Trump, it's 2.2 trillion. Effect on American wage growth, there was none for JCPOA. For Trump, it's the US wage growth has been set back by 1.5 years. And for Obama, the American weapon stockpile, there was no change to it. And Trump has ensured the American weapon stockpile is depleted. So who's the better negotiator, Obama or Trump? Trump is obviously a disaster of a president. Now let's see some more. What do we have here? Okay, this we'll see later. This we'll see later. We'll talk about this later. So this is the memorandum of understanding. It's going to be a long document. So let's see the TLDR version. Okay. So the United States has released the full text of its 14-point memorandum MOU with Iran. Key terms. First of all, the US, Iran, and their allies agree to immediately and permanently end military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. And obviously, Netanyahu has broken this agreement. He's already bombing Lebanon. So Netanyahu is not going to behave himself. Netanyahu is in deep, deep trouble, by the way. He's in deep trouble. Okay, we'll discuss Netanyahu later. Secondly, the US and Iran agreed to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and not interfere in each other's internal affairs. Well, the US tried its best to destroy Iran's sovereignty, but it's been beaten black and blue. That's why it had to accept these terms. Third, the US and Iran commit to negotiating and reaching a final deal within 60 days, unless mutually extended. Okay. Fourth, the US will begin removing its naval blockade immediately and fully end the blockade within 30 days. Okay. 5. Iran will use its best efforts to ensure safe passage for commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days with no charge. After that, there will be a charge. Iran will levy a toll for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. 6. The US and regional partners will develop a mutually agreed plan of at least $300 billion for Iran's reconstruction and economic development. So the US may not pay this money from its own pockets. It may arm twist its so-called regional partners into making the payments. But whatever happens, Iran gets the money. And Iran will use the money as it wishes, not on American terms. Next, the US will work towards terminating all types of sanctions against Iran, including UN sanctions, IAEA sanctions, primary sanctions, and secondary sanctions. This is such a humiliating set of terms for the United States. Okay? Trump has lost everything, all the leverage that he had, that the US had on Iran, that the US had built up on Iran over decades. Next, Iran reaffirms it will not procure or develop nuclear weapons and agrees to address its enriched material stockpile under IAEA supervision. We'll see about that. Okay. So it reaffirms it will not procure or develop nuclear weapons and agrees to address its enriched nuclear stockpile. Address. I wonder what address means, but whatever. Okay. Until a final deal is reached, Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program. Well, this kind of seems to be contradictory with 9, but okay. So until a final deal is reached, Iran will maintain the status quo, the current status quo of its nuclear program, which means it will not test nuclear weapons or whatever. Okay. While the US will impose no new sanctions and deploy no additional forces. Okay. 10. The US Treasury will issue waivers for Iranian crude oil, petroleum products, derivatives, and associated banking, insurance, and transportation services. 11. The US will make frozen or restricted Iranian funds and assets fully available for use. Well, that's another humiliation for Trump. Next, the US and Iran will establish an executive mechanism to monitor implementation of the MOU and future compliance with the final deal. 13. After signing the MOU and implementing key ceasefire, blockade, shipping, oil waiver, and asset release provisions, the US and Iran will begin final deal negotiations. The final deal will be endorsed by a binding UN Security Council resolution. The memorandum will trigger a 60-day window to negotiate a final deal. So this is the deal. Okay? This is the deal. So who wins? Is this like 50-50? There's nothing 50-50 about this. This is a deal on Iranian terms. The only concession it seems to have made is about the nuclear thing, that we will not procure nuclear weapons or whatever. What was the number thing? Iran will not procure or develop nuclear weapons and agrees to address its enriched material stockpile under IAEA supervision. So it's not going to give up. It's not going to give up its enriched uranium, whether it's highly enriched or weapons grade or whatever. It's not giving anything up. It will not procure or develop nuclear weapons. Okay, we'll see about that. It's not giving anything up. It's not destroying its nuclear stockpile. It's not handing it over to anybody. It stays with Iran. And this doesn't mean it will not enrich more uranium. Okay? So until the final deal is reached, Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program. That's okay. It's not like someone's going to come and observe or monitor the whole thing. So this essentially is a total Iranian victory. Okay, Iran did get hammered. It did take a lot of damage because of the US and military and Iranian airstrikes and whatnot. But Israel probably took more damage than Iran. And that the media obviously will censor because the media is very, very, very pro Israel. Israel has been hammered at least as badly as Iran, probably more. Because eventually the Iranians turned the Iron Dome into a paper dome. Okay? So, Iran won this war. No question about it. Iran won the war and it imposed its conditions. It made the United States agree to Iranian conditions. The deal, this MOU, this interim MOU, it's a victory for Iran. So, unlike some other countries that you may perhaps know about, Iran doesn't first win a war and then hand over the benefits and advantages on the negotiating table. Iran doesn't do that, right? So, this is a victory for Iran. Now, let's since we were looking at other stuff, let's see what else has happened in the past couple of days. For example, we have this image, Mr. Modi and Mr. Trump, and this is an image that Mr. Modi tweeted. So it's a pretty serious Mr. Modi, um, you know, having a conversation with Mr. Trump, and obviously Mr. Trump is the U.S. president who, is responsible for the deaths of three Indian sailors who were murdered by the United States Navy over the past couple of weeks, right, in the Strait of Hormuz. So things aren't great between India and the United States. What else do we have? We have this. We have this. Mr. Trump is not making any friends anywhere in the world, right? All hell breaks loose between Donald Trump and Giorgia Meloni, Madame Meloni of Italy. Trump told some news outlet that apparently Madame Meloni begged to have a picture with me. She begged to have a picture with me at the G7. I felt sorry for her. That's what he said. And Meloni, her response is scathing. I am shocked by Trump's utterly fabricated words. I am sorry he doesn't know the same determination. He doesn't show the same determination against the enemies of the West. And bear in mind, me and Italy, we never beg. So Madame Meloni is extremely, extremely angry with Mr. Trump. He has made these claims that she begged him for a picture, right? She's always treated the guy nicely, and this is how he behaves. This guy, Trump, I mean, I don't get I just don't get this guy. What's the point of doing all this? What's the point of antagonizing everybody? Is this the art of the deal? Disrespecting and antagonizing people who are supposed to be your allies and partners. Anyhow, that's the deal. Okay, let's take some more questions. So Abhishek Shukla Live says that he played a role in busting Chinese propaganda on X, loved the meltdown. It's been an actual meltdown. It's been an actual meltdown at the highest levels. Okay, so let me try and find evidence of the Chinese meltdown. Just give me a second. I'm gonna try and pull something out of Twitter, of X, right? Uh, there's been a meltdown. I mean, when there's a meltdown, it indicates something's going on. There's some truth to what's what's been put forth. So let's see. Give me a second. I mean, would you believe this? Yeah, would you believe this? Give me a second. The Global Times is a Chinese propaganda outlet, government propaganda outlet. Okay, and this went so far that the Chinese got all upset, and the Chinese government had the Global Times issue tweets about this. Right. So the Global Times said this yesterday. Recently, some Indian social media users claimed that they had made a discovery that China, like India, supposedly has a so called caste system. They shared memes about ancient China's four occupations. China had four occupations, by the way. Okay? Xinong Gongshang, scholars, farmers, artisans, merchants, etc., by framing them as equivalent to Indians, blah, 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 blah. And Chinese commentators believe the claim reflects the ignorance and so on. So, China's topmost official propaganda outlet, the Chinese Communist Party's official global propaganda outlet, now has to come and do some firefighting. Yeah. And they've put out a whole article. So when you make the see, this is war by other means, okay, between India and China. China for decade has been pushing out all kinds of dirty, nasty propaganda on social media about India, whether it is on X or on Facebook or wherever else, on TikTok. They have been manufacturing all kinds of nasty propaganda about India. And now a bunch of Indian anonymous accounts who are not paid by the government, because the government of India doesn't care about these things, but a bunch of Indian accounts came together and exposed the truth about China. China has four occupations. It's not some fake news. Gong, Chong, Ning, whatever the hell that is, right? Shi, Nong, Gong, Shang. And there's more. If you dig deeper into Chinese history and culture, you're going to uncover all kinds of things that the Chinese would rather stay hidden. They want these things to stay hidden. Okay? So I'm glad you all are doing this. Abhishek Shukla Live, fantastic. Great job. It's been a total Indian victory. Please continue the good fight. Expose them more. I promise you, Abhishek Shukla, the stuff that you've uncovered, you and you know our other fine young uh, social media warriors, the stuff that you've uncovered, it's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more to uncover. Please do some actual research. I mean, you're doing actual research. I mean, I would say take it further. Take it to the next level. Dig deeper. There's so much to uncover, so much fascinating stuff to uncover about China's history and culture. Okay? Stuff that the Chinese would very much prefer that Indians left alone. Please don't bring this up. Please don't dig these facts out. There's a lot more to uncover. Go for it. Okay? Full support, sir. Full support. I shall retweet it all. Go for it. Okay. Abhishek Shukla says, please do war analysis. Well, Iran has won. That's my analysis. That's the analysis. Analysis is done. Yes. Okay. What else do we have? Okay. So, this is a conversation between two people. All right. What else do we have? Let's see. Let us see. Okay, so Faith Booth says, ask Abhijit, I heard a lot of rumors Belarus may attack soon from the other side of the Ukraine. If it happens, what's the US response? Will they push NATO because Putin is arming Belarus because US help strikes? I don't know. Look, this seems to be speculation. Rumors, we better not address rumors. What's the point? Russia has been extremely tolerant of late of all kinds of US, uh, Ukrainian attacks, even on the capital city, Moscow, right? It's been kind of surprising the way the Russians have been so incredibly tolerant of these attacks on the Russian capital. The Ukrainians are now bringing the war to the Russian capital. I wonder what Russia is up to. Is there some kind of backroom deal that's been signed or been arrived at or something? I'm not sure. So you know what? Belarus, of course, is very much aligned with Russia. If or when the Russians feel that we need to activate Belarus as an asset, it will be activated. But I am not going to address speculation or rumors, because rumors, who knows who puts out? Yeah, you know. So I can't say about that. Okay. Okay. Sai Origin says, if string theory cannot be proved experimentally, then what's the point of putting so much time and energy in it? Physics is about experimental proof, right? Or am I wrong? Look, there are primarily, basically, from a big picture perspective, two disciplines in physics. There's theoretical physics here, okay, over here, and there's experimental physics here. So, what's the job of theoretical physics? What do theoreticians do? Well, they do thought experiments, they develop theories based on observational evidence. Okay, what are the how can I best explain the evidence that we observe about whatever phenomenon or whatever discipline or domain within physics? And they try and come up with better theories. So that's all theoretical work. It's pen and paper. It's brain, pen, paper. That's all you need. You don't need any equipment. And then theoretical physics is about proving or disproving the theories that the theoreticians put forth. So physics is not only about experimental physics, it's about theory and experiment. Okay. Now, when it comes to string theory, it makes no testable predictions. it makes no testable prediction. And the United States physics departments have spent decades from the 1960s onwards promoting string theory and funding string theory. It's been a waste of time and space and money and energy and resources. Yeah, so string theory has been a disaster for physics. Why did they put so much time and energy into this? Well, I'd say politics and groupthink. When you have a bunch of very well connected physicists, very influential physicists who are proponents of string theory, well, they're going to use their influence and so on to get more string theory work funded. If they have students who did PhDs in string theory, they're going to make sure that they get good placements and whatnot, and they also get funding. And that's how slowly the cancer spreads. That's the kind of thing that happens even in science. You see, science isn't immune to politics. Okay, so now, Kahan says, how might Israel's forced termination of war in Lebanon, MOU Article 1, shift its red line calculus, integral or differential? Okay, calculus on Iran's nuclear threshold. Look, Israel, the United States has signed this MOU, right, with Israel, with Iran. Trump signed this. Here we have it again. And the first term, like you correctly say, is that the US, Iran, and their allies agree to immediately and permanently end military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. And right now, Israel is hitting Lebanon right now. So Netanyahu is trying to do his best to sabotage the deal that Trump has signed. Netanyahu is trying his best to sabotage what the United States, the deal, the MOU that the US has signed. What should the US do about Israel? I think they should they should consider going in and perhaps doing a regime change in Israel itself. Netanyahu seems to be really troublesome for Trump. I think JD Vance is already saying things, cautioning the Israelis. JD Vance, he's said some words of caution. He's expressed his frank or somewhat unvarnished opinion about the role Israel is currently playing, the role of a spoiler, right? So essentially, Netanyahu is in deep trouble. Personally, there are all these corruption trials that are hanging over his head. He has been accused very, very seriously of corruption. There's at least a couple of corruption cases that are currently pending in Israel's courts, in which he is the prime accused. So what Netanyahu was hoping was that he would start this war against Iran, and he would make the US effect a regime change in Iran, and then he would be remembered because of that as the greatest ever prime minister of Israel, and all this corruption and all that stuff will be forgotten. But that's not what he's achieved. He hasn't. He and his American allies have completely miserably failed in effecting a regime change in Iran. They thought they will kill the Ayatollah and sab ho jayega. Everything will be good. The Iranians will come begging for a surrender. What a joke. Nothing of that sort happened. It did not affect Iran at all. The killing of the Ayatollah, the killing of at least 50 other senior generals and officials made no difference to Iran. It actually solved Iran's problem that all its senior leaders were moderates. Now all the senior leaders are hardliners. So Netanyahu was hoping for a regime change. He was hoping to place a puppet in Iran, a puppet he can control. Didn't work. He was hoping that if that doesn't work, he can at least devastate Iran and blow up its nuclear facilities and permanently cripple Iran's military industry and all that. Nothing like that has happened. On the contrary, Israel has been crippled. Israel's Iron Dome has been turned into a paper dome. Okay, Israeli cities have been hammered by Iranian missiles, and all that has been hidden away by the American media and social media. That's been censored away. So Israel has taken way more damage, it looks like, than Iran, right? And now Trump has been humiliatingly forced to sign this MOU, in which Iran gets everything, the US gets almost nothing, and Israel is obliged to participate in term number one, end the war in Lebanon. So that's why Netanyahu is trying to spoil this agreement. He's ordering strikes on Beirut and Lebanon, right? So the US is unable to force Israel to do anything. And that's why Netanyahu is trying his best to spoil this MOU. And Iran has reacted. They are saying that they will not abide by the terms of the agreement if Israel is not brought to heel. So that is the situation right now. Okay. The US will have to find a way to deal with the Israelis. Okay, if they can. Maybe they can't. We'll see about that. It's interesting that these things, the current situation is bringing up. It's exposing the truth about the US-Israel relationship. Who's the real boss out there? Is Israel a US vassal, or is the United States an Israeli vassal? It's gonna become very clear in a couple of days. We'll see about that. Okay. Okay. What else do we have? Socrates says, do you watch sci-fi? Please answer. Been a long time viewer. Well, thank you so much for having been a long time viewer. Do I watch sci-fi? I read the sci-fi. I watch the sci-fi. Sci-fi is is what I enjoy the best, what I enjoy the most. For example, Asimov is all sci-fi. Philip K. Dick, right? Philip K. Dick, Asimov, and so on. I'm all about sci-fi. I've got sci-fi all over the place. There's more sci-fi here. There's sci-fi there. You can't see that. And there's all sorts of sci-fi here. There's so much more. I'm the biggest fan of sci-fi. That's all I read as a teenager. Of course, later on, it's not entirely all I read as a teenager, but you get the point, right? Okay, let's replace that. Would you like to see more? Dune, right? Not an easy book to read, but yeah, good book. And there's more. And there's more. There's so much more. So yes, I'm a big sci-fi fan, of course. All right. What else do we have? What else? What else? Messi or Ronaldo? Who's the real deal? Who's the real GOAT? Messi. Not Ronaldo. Messi. Right. Okay. Lots of questions. Safed Booth says, just wanted to tell you, Trump will be presenting the 2026 World Cup trophy. Imagine if Iran wins, Trump would have to present the World Cup to Iranian players in front of the world. Well, I think it's a little. The probability of Iran winning isn't the highest. Let's put it that way. But it will certainly be fun to see that happen if it actually does happen. Trump has to present the trophy to Iran. Well, he's going to have to do it in that case. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's take some more questions before we get into the super chats. Ayush Singh says, what exactly was the Peloponnesian War and why was it fought? Who was Pericles? Why is it so much studied? What was the outcome of the war? Okay, lots of questions here. Let's focus on the main thing. The Peloponnesian War. Well, what was this war? And why was it fought? And between whom, first of all, was it fought? So there's this region in Greece called the Peloponnese region. It's a geographical region, and this war is named after that. It was fought in the 6th century BC or somewhere thereabouts. It was fought between Athens and Sparta. Okay, there is Athens and there is Sparta. And it's really well known and well understood because of one historian, Thucydides, who wrote an entire history of the Peloponnesian War as an observer. Okay. And that brings us to the Thucydides trap. The Thucydides trap goes as thus: that if you have an existing hegemonic power that enjoys hegemony over a region, and there's a new power that emerges as a potential hegemon in the region, if that situation exists, then war is inevitable. That's the Thucydides trap. You have an existing hegemon, and a new potential hegemon starts emerging in the same, who will compete for the same area, same region, same domain, same whatever. Then war is inevitable. That's the Thucydides trap. So this was between Sparta and Athens, and that went on for years. There was a long period of peace in between, quasi peace or whatever. But eventually, one side prevailed. Should I give you the should I give you a spoiler? Who won? It was Sparta that won. Okay, and this doesn't have to do with anything with the Persian invasion and Sparta. This is Sparta. Nothing of that. Okay, so why is this studied so much? It's because it's a proper detailed history of the war has been written by Thucydides. That's why. The outcome of the war was a Spartan victory, and Athens was defeated and dealt with properly. But that was not the end of Athens. Athens did emerge again in the future. All right. What else? What else? Swami says, doesn't the defeat of the US in this war mean that they can't have a monopoly on world supply of oil, as they did not destroy Iran's oil infrastructure? That is very much correct. The United States won't have a complete total monopoly on the global oil supply because they haven't successfully defeated Iran. If they had defeated Iran, they would have been able to control that massive set of oil resources and reserves that Iran has. And that would have been one of the greatest victories ever for the United States. But the opposite has happened. Iran has remained sovereign, and what's more, it now controls the Hormuz Strait. Right. So, from China's perspective, for example, China is an oil deficient nation. China is not sovereign in terms of energy. It has to import oil from a variety of sources. And for the sake of mitigating risk, they import oil from a basket of sources, like 10, 15 different places. One of these is, for example, so what are these sources of Chinese of the oil? Where does the oil that China imports originate? So one nation was Venezuela, where the US did a regime change operation. And Venezuela accounted for about 3% of China's oil imports. So that may have stopped now, potentially, most likely. What else? You have Saudi Arabia, you have the UAE, you have Qatar, you have Oman, you have Kuwait, you have Iraq, you have Iran, you have various certain African nations like Nigeria, you have Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Okay. So when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, a lot of China's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and so on, and Iraq and Iran as well. So when it comes to Iran, Iran accounts for about 15 to 20% of China's oil imports. That's pretty big. And China gets a good deal from Iran, good prices and so on. So if that ends, if China can't get that, if the US takes that over, well, that's a massive blow to China, because the US can then stop that on demand. So that's the deal, right? So the US, that's the grand strategy it was pursuing. Take over all the major global oil suppliers. Because see, when it comes to Gulf nations, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc., the US more or less controls these nations. If the US issues a diktat, stop selling oil to China, these nations will have to comply. But Iran won't comply. So this means that the US is not going to be able to establish a monopoly on the world's oil supply. That's correct. That's exactly correct. Cosmic Cab says, what do you make of the joint Modi-Trump live media conference in Evian G7 Subit? Nothing. Nothing. It's the first time since February 2025 that Mr. Modi and Mr. Trump met. After all the chaos unleashed by Trump in the India-US relationship, the India-US relationship is no longer a friendly relationship. The US now seeks to very clearly, it's very clear that the US seeks to contain India. The US is very unfriendly towards India now. And I was of the opinion that Mr. Modi should not have met Mr. Trump, but okay, it went fine. There was nothing untoward. There was no attempt by Mr. Trump to humiliate Mr. Modi the way he humiliated Madame Meloni, right? But overall, this was a meeting without substance. Mr. Trump said some childish, inane things and all that, and there was nothing really that came of it, as far as what we know in the public domain, right? So, yeah, I don't make much of it at all. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Chris Hems says, did you watch Ilya Topuria versus Justin Gaethje? If yes, how did he manage to pull it off? I haven't seen it. Yeah. The last time I saw Justin Gaethje fight, he was defeated by Khabib Nurmagomedov. That's quite some time ago. So I haven't seen this recent one. So I don't know what happened. I'm a big fan of MMA, but I haven't been able to really keep track of what's happening in recent times. So I don't know what happened there. Okay, so I see a lot of questions being repeated, spammed. I don't know about the Trilateral Commission, so I won't be able to get into that. Okay, let's get into the super chats now. This is the problem with regular chats. You have to go and sift through everything and find something interesting. Okay, let's see this. Aditya Acharya says, if the universe is expanding, then why do galaxies collide? Do you think we are living in a simulation, and what does it actually mean? So, if the universe is expanding, why do galaxies collide? Yes, it's a good question, isn't it? Why do galaxies collide? Now, first of all, if you say that the universe is expanding, how do you know that? If we make a claim, what is the evidence for the claim? What is the evidence that the universe is expanding? What's the evidence? The evidence is there. It's out there. It's the red shift of distant galaxies. Okay. So, first of all, we know that atoms have spectra. Okay. Spectral lines based on quantum properties of the atoms. How many electrons they have, and in what way do they, if their electrons are excited and they come down to the ground state, they will release photons. What will be the frequency of those photons, and so on. Based on these things, we have very specific atomic spectra. For example, sodium is a very clear, very well known, very famous double line, and so on and so forth. So every element has a very specific spectrum of light. And these spectra we can see in the lab. In the lab, here at home, on Earth. But we also see the same spectra in distant stars and galaxies. Okay? So now that we understand that, if we look at a distant galaxy and try to observe the spectrum to understand the composition, the elementary composition of the galaxy or stars, you'll find often that distant galaxies show the same spectra of the same elements we find on Earth, but the spectra are shifted towards a certain color. So we know the spectrum of light, the overall spectrum of light, right? It's ROYGBIV, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? So there's a red end of the spectrum, there's a blue end of the spectrum. So we find that typically galaxies that are far away, their light is shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. It's red shifted. And that indicates that the galaxy is moving away. That's why the light waves waves are stretched out, which is why they become redder. And we find that the further a galaxy is, the more red shifted it is. That indicates that galaxies are moving away from us, and the further they are, the faster they're moving away from us, which means that the universe is expanding. And essentially, we also know that the expansion is accelerating. Okay? So now that we have established that the universe is actually indeed expanding, then why do galaxies collide? Shouldn't galaxies all move further and further away from each other? Why do galaxies collide? Well, there's a galaxy called Andromeda, the Andromeda galaxy. If we observe the light from Andromeda, we will find something strange. It is not red shifted, it is blue shifted. It's blue shifted. The light is the light is shifted towards the blue end of the spectrum, somewhat, which means the galaxy is moving towards us. Which means in the future there's gonna be a collision between the Milky Way, our galaxy, and Andromeda. Andromeda is our nearest neighboring galaxy. It's only 2.5 million light years away, just a stone's throw away. Just 2.5 million light years. So Andromeda is coming towards the Milky Way. In a while, we won't be around. In a while, the two galaxies will merge. Okay? So why is this happening? The universe is expanding, right? I could ask the same question. Why isn't the moon moving away from us? Why isn't the earth moving away from the sun? Why isn't the solar system drifting apart? Why are the atoms in my body not drifting away? Because the universe is expanding. Because the universe's expansion isn't strong enough to do these things. The expansion of the universe operates at very large cosmological distance scales. Over shorter distances, gravity, the force of gravity, it overpowers the expansion of space-time. And that's why at short distance scales, gravity dominates, not the expansion. The expansion doesn't dominate, gravity dominates at reasonably short distance scales, like 2.5 million light years. The small distance scale, right? 2.5 million light years. What's a light year? It's the distance a particle of light, like a photon, travels in 1 year. What's the speed of light? 300,000 meters per second, 3 lakh meters per second. Multiply that by 60 times 24 times 365, that's 1 light year. That's how many meters it is. So just 2.5 million light years. That small distance, at that small distance, gravity overpowers the expansion of the universe. Okay, so that's why galaxies do collide when they are reasonably close together at small distances from each other. Do I think we are living in a simulation? I think it's 50-50. What's it actually mean? It means maybe there's a programmer somewhere out there who has a very powerful computer and who created a a toy universe, and we are actually living in that. Okay. Pratardana says, time travel, can we send quantum devices to the past? No, look, if there's time travel, you don't have to send a quantum device to the past. You can send an eraser to the past. You can send a glass of water to the past. You can send whatever you want to the past, not necessarily a quantum device, if time travel is possible. So is time travel possible, is the question. Yeah. Well, see, how can you figure out whether time travel is possible? The laws of physics must allow time travel for it to be possible. So it's possible only if the laws of physics allow it. Now, do the laws of physics allow time travel is the question, big question out there in this case, right? So what are the laws of physics? See, there's two sets of laws of physics that are relevant to our question here. One is quantum mechanics, quantum field theory. The other is general relativity, the theory of the very small and the theory of the large. So when it comes to quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, time is not really part of the theory. It's an external parameter. It's an external classical parameter. It's an external metronome, tick tock, tick tock. So time isn't really something that is really relevant or emergent from quantum physics, quantum theory. So then we have to look at general relativity. So if you look at general relativity, it treats time as a dimension. So it's the 4-dimensional fabric of space-time. And general relativity is all about, well, what are the law? What's the physics behind this? It's the physics described by the Einstein field equations. The Einstein field equation, if you look at it, it looks like a very simple, straightforward equation, but it's actually 10 equations entangled into one. And they are pretty damn complicated and very, very hard to solve exactly. The first person to solve the field equations exactly was Karl Schwarzschild, who was sitting in a trench in 1916 on the Russian front in the First World War. He was in charge of plotting artillery trajectories and he was under bombardment. At night, he was trying to solve the equations because he was actually an astronomer who had volunteered for war and he was dying. But before dying, he was able to give the first exact solution to the Einstein field equations. But Schwarzschild isn't relevant to our discussion here. So we'll not go into that. A few years later, maybe a decade or two later, several decades later, the logician Kurt Gödel came up with an exact solution of the Einstein field equations. And Kurt Gödel's solution included it threw up something astonishing, something that's called closed time-like curves. Closed time-like curves. So, what are these closed time-like curves? First of all, they exist. First of all, Kurt Gödel's solution was an exact solution. So it's an exact mathematical solution to Einstein's field equations. But it's a strange solution because it describes a static universe that is rotating. Not an expanding or contracting universe, a static universe that is rotating. Okay? And the rotation of the universe, so at every point in space-time, according to general relativity, you have something called light codes, which defines what is possible in the future and what was possible in the past. So if you look at the solution of Kurt Gödel, the light cones are twisted and warped around. So if you are at a certain point in space-time and you are moving towards your future, then the light cone will take you in a twisted, warped, set of possibilities that eventually loop back into your past. So by going into the future, you will eventually end up in your past. So yes, according to Kurt Gödel's exact solution of the Einstein field equations, time travel is possible. By going into the future, you eventually end up in your past. You may even meet a prior version of yourself. So does it mean that time travel is possible? Kurt Gödel's exact solution of the Einstein field equations predicts time travel. Well, not quite. Why not if there's an exact solution? Because the exact solution describes a static, rotating universe. Our universe is not static, it is expanding. And our universe is not rotating. So Kurt Gödel's solution describes a different universe, not ours. Okay? And so on. It's fun to discuss this stuff. Pratardana says, I feel our priestly class is dead, non-existent in practical terms. No one is writing new epics, composing hymns, no new philosophy. What do you think? I think you raise a very important and very relevant point. Today, Indians are proud of the past. Right? We are proud of the past, the past greatness of India. We had all these philosophical schools of thought. We had Mimamsa. We had Nyaya, we had Sankhya, we had Yoga, Jaina, Bodha, Charvaka, Vedanta, and so on and so forth. And there's more. And all these are unique and all these are fantastic and blah, blah, blah. And we had great scholars like Panini and Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta and Vishnugupta and so on and so forth. All our greatness, all our glories in the past. But in what way has Indian philosophy, okay, the different philosophical schools of thought, in what way have they evolved in the past 1,000 years? They have remained frozen in time. Because all the scholars were killed off and all the books were burned. So all we know is the philosophy that had developed until 1,000 years ago. In the past 1,000 years, there's been no new development. And today's like you say, priestly class or scholars, They recite hymns and whatever it is from the past. They're not doing any new research. They're not taking philosophy forward. India's philosophical schools of thought were essentially different models of the universe based on whatever was known best at the time, right? So if Indian philosophical schools of thought had persisted actively until today, they would have incorporated everything that we know until today, including quantum mechanics, general relativity, and whatever else. So there's nothing new. Indian culture is essentially frozen in time 1,000 years ago, and today whatever is taken forward is kind of distorted and ruined. You have pinpointed the exact problem in India. Today, India's culture has been turned by the government into a sideshow. When there is some event, kuch cultural kar lo. Get somebody to put on some fantasy dress and do some ding 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 dong ding dong. That's it. And they'll do it on the side of the road when the great dignitaries walk and say ha 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 ha. That's Indian culture today. That's how the government of India treats Indian culture. To revive culture, we have to do what you're pointing out here. We need to have people taking culture forward, actually living, embodying, breathing culture, taking it forward, composing new epics, composing new hymns, new philosophies. You are absolutely 100% right, and that's the real problem with India today. Donald Trump says, why did our PM call Donald Trump Your Excellency? I like your display picture. Okay, why did India's Prime Minister call Mr. Trump Your Excellency 6 times at the G7 days after a US strike killed 3 Indian sailors? Well, the official term, the official address, the way to address a world leader or a high-ranking diplomat is to call that person Your Excellency. Yes. So let's say you are having a conversation with a retired Indian ambassador. It is correct and proper to address him or her as Your Excellency. If you are having a conversation with a current head of state, it is correct and proper to address him or her as Your Excellency. So that's why it is proper to say, Your Excellency, Madame Giorgia Meloni, Your Excellency, Madame Sanae Takaichi, Your Excellency, Mr. Donald Trump, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Modi, Your Excellency, Monsieur le Président Emmanuel Macron, Your Excellency, Mr. Vladimir Putin, and so on. All right? So that's just the proper way, the proper usage. So that's fine. Okay? You don't start abusing each other. You don't do that, no matter what happens. That's the decorum and the protocol that you that you should follow. But that's in public. Once the doors are closed, you can say whatever you feel to each other, including the choicest of words, but that behind closed doors. AMK Unfiltered, thank you very much, AMK Unfiltered. Thank you. Pratardana says, war only ends when Israel wants. Well, there are ways to end the war. I suppose the US can use its good offices to, let's say, persuade Israel to cooperate. I'm sure the US can find ways to persuade Israel to cooperate and uphold the terms of the MOU that Mr. Trump has signed. And in case the US is unable to persuade Israel, well, that would indicate that the war only ends when Israel wants it. Right? So this situation is going to show us who really controls whom. Okay? Can the US actually control Israel? Or does Israel actually control the US? And is the US in a position to compel Israel to stop itself from sabotaging the MOU? Can the US actually do that? Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch the next few days. Nishant Bordoloi says, I got 92 percentile in JEE mains general category. I couldn't get into a government college. I don't have it in me to study for one more year. If I study in a private college, will I be able to do good in life? If you study in a private college, you certainly can do well in life. If you stop your studies right now, hypothetically, it's not what I'm not saying you should. I'm saying if somebody in your position were to decide to stop studies and get right into business, I'm sure you can do well in life. No matter what happens to you, you can still do well in life, whether you take choice A or choice B or choice C or choice XYZ. You can always find a good way. Now, you got 92 percentile, but you did not get into a good college, and you really, really don't want to study one more year. So the option is you get into a private college. If you get into a private college, can you do well? You get a degree from a private college, you can get a good job or whatever, you can start a good business or whatever. So the answer to your question depends on what is it that you want to do in your life. Do you want a government job? Do you want a private job? Do you want to pursue higher studies abroad? Do you want to get a permanent residency or citizenship abroad? Do you want to start a business in India? Do you want to go abroad and start a business? Do you want to get into academia and become a professor somewhere? What exactly is it that you want to achieve in life? Some of these paths will require a college degree and so on. Some of these paths don't have anything to do with a college degree. So it all depends on what you want. And I don't know what you want, so I can't answer your question. But the answer to your question in principle and in general is that you can do well in life without getting into government college or whatever. You can do well in life with a degree from a private college too, or without a degree from a private college. Yeah. All right. All the best. All the best, sir. Atul Mishra says, views on illegal immigrants finally being deported. Really? Has India deported anybody? Also, viewer here since 2020, wasn't 12th then. Thank you so much for inspiring us with your awesomeness. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, first of all, for having been a viewer since 2020. Well, that's a long time. That's the beginning of the channel, essentially. I started this channel in January or something, 2020, but it was kind of on ice at the time. It did not really become active properly until May or June 2021. Right. So thank you so much for having been such a long time viewer of mine. Now, view on illegal immigrants finally being deported. Is India deporting illegal immigrants? Let's find out. Let's see. Let's ask our friend Google. Has India begun deporting illegal immigrants? Yes, India has actually actively begun deporting undocumented immigrants and has intensified the crackdown, particularly targeting foreign nationals from Bangladesh and Myanmar, which means illegal Bangladeshi infiltrators and cookie terrorists. That's what it means. Detect, delete, and deport drive. State and central governments have operationalized a Union Ministry of Home Affairs policy to identify and deport illegal migrants. In West Bengal alone, authorities deported approximately 4,800 undocumented Bangladeshi nationals in just over a month. Following state elections. Okay, Bangladesh and Myanmar, West Bengal, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya. So states sharing borders with Bangladesh and Myanmar, like West Bengal, Assam, Tripura, and Meghalaya, handle the final expulsions. Immigrants have been rounded up from economic hubs across the country like Delhi, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, before being flown to border states to be sent back. Well, I can find of okay. I shall have no suggestions to make about this. To enforce this policy, several states have operationalized blah blah etc. High security holding centers and detention camps. Excellent to house undocumented migrants while their nationality verification and travel documents are processed. India is not a signatory to the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, meaning undocumented immigrants do not automatically receive legal protection against expulsion, and so on and so forth. So, West Bengal, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya handle the final expulsion, but not Manipur, strangely enough, which is facing the biggest problem from the cookie terrorism. Okay. And we have sent back about 5,000 Bangladeshis. What is the point of sending back 5,000 Bangladeshis? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. We may have 50 million Bangladeshis in India. 5,000, okay, it's a start. I'm not complaining. But you know what? Get going. So my views are that it's a good start. Yes, I support this. I support it. I'm fully with the government of India. But please take it to the next level. 5,000 in 1 month. What is this? We got more. We got so much more to do. All right. And yeah, we're gonna you know have them in these facilities for a while their nationality status is scrutinized. Then they're going to be put on aircraft and flown to the border states. I can think of easier ways to do this, but okay, fine. Varinder Singh says right wing don't like name India, but Indus is mother. What's your question, sir? Right wing don't like name India. Okay, the right wing in India says that you should not say India, you should say Bharat. But Indus is mother. Indus is mother. First of all, there is no thing called Indus. It is the Sindhu River. Sindhu. It's not Indus. Indus is a Greek version of Sindhu. The Greeks have distorted the names of so many places in our region and so many names of in our region. Chandragupta, they called him Sandrakotos. What is Sandrakotos? But yes, Chandragupta, they called him Sandrakotos. Okay. Purushottam became Purus. The Indus is the name they gave to Sindhu. Can't you say Sindhu? No, Indus. Darayavaus became Darius. Kurush became Cyrus. Kshayarsha became Xerxes. Artakshatra became Artaxerxes. Nabucodonosor became Nebuchadrezzar. Parshvapur became Persepolis. And so on. The Greeks distorted the names of so many places and so many rivers and other things. So it's not the Indus. It is Sindhu. Sindhu. And when it comes to the name of, like you say, India, which many right wingers may not like, we've had many names for our land. Jambudweep, Aryabharta, Bharat. I'm sure there's more, but so yeah, you see. Okay. Krishanta Bordoloi says, what's the deal with Indian PMs and Catholic Italy? Indian Prime Ministers in Catholic Italy. What's the deal? I have no idea what the deal is. Italy is a nation. It may be a Catholic. Is it officially a Catholic nation? They have the Vatican, but I am not sure what's the relevance of religion. Is Italy officially a Catholic nation? No, Italy is not officially a Catholic nation. It is a secular state with the freedom of religion guaranteed by constitution. Yes, while Catholicism is the predominant. Okay, all that. Yeah. The point is, Italy is not officially a Catholic nation. Yes, it's officially a secular nation. Yes, tutti frutti. I don't know what the deal is. Indian prime ministers in Catholic Italy. I'm not sure. If you can be a little more specific, I may understand what you're asking, but I don't know. Abhay Singh says Russia is getting humiliated by Ukraine right now. Is it good for India-Russia relations, or do you think that it would push Russia even closer to China instead? You are correct that the Ukrainians are sending drone swarms to the capital of Russia, Moscow, and you have all these incredible images that are emerging from Moscow and videos that are emerging from Moscow of those drone strikes. And my question is, what on earth is Mr. Putin doing right now? Why is he absorbing all this punishment? Why is Ukraine able to do this? I mean, it's not like Russia doesn't have the ability to hit back, but it's just taking it, right? I'm not sure. I absolutely don't know what's happening and why this is being tolerated by Russia. Obviously, I don't have a horse in this race. I don't have a dog in this fight. But it's perplexing. Perplexing. Right now, Russia seems to be at the back foot for some unknown reason. So you could say that Russia is getting currently humiliated by Ukraine right now. And you would not be wrong if you said that. Is this good for India-Russia relations? Or do you think it would push Russia even closer to China instead? Well, I think this essentially has nothing to do with India-Russia relations. But if the Ukrainians are able to damage Russia's oil and gas export facilities, then it could certainly affect India-Russia relations in the sense that the trade between the two nations could go down several notches potentially. Could this push Russia even closer to China instead? I don't know. Could be. My point is, Russia is choosing to do nothing about this. It's not like Russia is weaponless, defenseless, helpless. Russia has some of the scariest weapons on the planet and at scale in large quantities. It's choosing to sit back and take it. There may be some reason behind this that we are not able to see right now. But overall, this doesn't have a direct connection with India-Russia relations unless it affects Russia's ability to export oil and gas to India, mainly oil. Could this push Russia even closer to China instead? Well, if Russia actually starts being on the back foot in the war, it could push Russia closer to China. Yeah, potentially. Okay, skeptical potato says the doomsday argument. Are the end times upon us? No, the end times aren't upon us. At least I hope not. Pratardana says Apollonius of Tyana and his journey to India. Greek writers say that he traveled to India to learn philosophies, etc., and became a spiritual guru. I am not aware of Apollonius of Tyana. I remember Apollonius' theorem or something. First of all, what was that? Apollonius theorem. Was it geometry? Was it calculus? Concept in geometry, right? So Euclidean, blah, 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 blah. Apollonius theorem. Yeah, it's like something you study in the 10th or 12th standard or something, like 11th, whatever. Yeah, Apollonius theorem. Okay, so but who was Apollonius of Tyana? Okay, who was Apollonius of Tyana? Philosopher. Greek philosopher who spent his life traveling and teaching in the Middle East, North Africa, and India. Teaching and traveling. Teaching in India. What joke. Okay, so listen, my point is I don't know this guy. I haven't studied his life history or whatever. I am not familiar with his adventures and what he learned and so on. I don't know. Sorry. Okay, Jigish Shukla says, what action should India take as soon as a Pak sub emerges in Bangladesh? Take it out. Take it out. Right? Send it to the bottom of the Bay of Bengal. If it emerges in Bangladesh, make sure it stays there permanently. That's an action India should take. Yeah, I would be in favor of such an action. Safi Rahal says, is 50 to 90 million population enough to be a great power? Okay, so, let's see some data. What was the population of England in 1600, 1700, 1800, and 1900? Let's see. Come on, I asked you a question, bruh. Go to AI mode. Let's see. So, what do we have? Come on, Gemini. So, in 1600, it was 4.15 million. That's where the English begin their journey. By 1900, it was 30 million. By 1900, when England's population was 30 million, the sun did not ever set on the British Empire. Okay? Now, another pertinent question. And I know the answer, but let's see. Should be 5 million. What was the total population of Mongolia in 1225 AD? 5 million? Okay, not even 5 million. A million at most. A million. 1.5 to 2 million people. Genghis Khan, Shri Genghis Khan, who conquered half of Eurasia, he had a total Mongolian population of between at most 1.5 to 2 million people. And what was the total number of soldiers he had? 100,000 at most, 1 lakh. You could put them inside a cricket stadium as spectators. With 100,000 soldiers, he conquered essentially half the known world. Mongolia was the superpower of the time, unstoppable. 50 to 90 million people. Why do you need so many? 100,000 is enough. Okay, Atul Prasad says, please search Ben Rhodes 2016 controversy in Gemini may be relevant to Iran deal analysis, even if overall opinion unchanged. Let's see what is this. Ben Rhodes 2016 controversy. What's the deal? The 2016 Ben Rhodes controversy stems from a revealing New York Times magazine profile in May 2016. In the article, Rhodes, then President Barack Obama's deputy national security advisor, boasted about the administration's communication strategy used to sell the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. Key elements of the controversy include the echo chamber strategy. Rhodes admitted to creating an echo chamber by feeding prepackaged narratives and talking points to legions of arms control experts and think tanks, who then cited these points to seemingly clueless reporters. Reporters are typically clueless and dumb, disparaging the press. He characterized the Washington, D.C. press corps as 27-year-olds who literally know nothing about international relations, asserting that reporters could be easily manipulated to uncritically report White House talking points. No surprise here. You should see Indian reporters. Forget about the West. Okay. Fabricated timelines. The profile suggested the administration misled the public about the timeline of the negotiations, framing them as a response to the moderate election of Hassan Rouhani in 2013, rather than the reality that covert talks had begun much earlier with hardline factions. Critics, including deal opponents and members of the press, strongly condemned the White House for actively deceiving the public and manipulating the media. In contrast, Rhodes and the Obama administration defended their communications, stating they were forced to aggressively counter well-funded opponents of diplomacy, and their messaging was grounded in fact. And you can read the original profile and so on, so blah blah blah. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you for letting us know. Okay. V. Abhijit Kumar says, why do atheists compare bhakti to schizophrenia? Look, I don't know why they do that. I can't talk about somebody who is mentally deceased. DISEASED, deceased. See, look, no disrespect intended to anybody, but overall atheists are not all, but at least many of them are some of the dumbest people on the planet. I'm not generalizing, I'm saying many of them are not, but many of them are. Because what does it mean to be an atheist? To be an atheist, if you are an atheist, you are making a statement and a claim. An atheist claims that he or she knows for a fact that in the entirety of the observable and unobservable universe, there is no God. There is nothing you can't explain without science. Okay? The known universe is 95 billion light years in diameter. And there's a much vaster unknown component and portion of the universe much beyond that. And these fine people make the claim implicitly that they know for a fact that there's no God and nothing that can't be explained using current science in the entirety of the universe, and perhaps even beyond that. On what basis can you make the claim? It's incredible. So that's why they're some of the dumbest people on the planet. Not all, but at least most of them. So I don't know why they compare this to that. I don't pay attention to them. I don't want to waste my valuable time thinking about why do idiots think about this or think this. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Der Kaiser Franz Beckenbauer. Der Kaiser. Yes, the Kaiser. What is your opinion about the mystery of Baghdad battery? I don't know what it is, but let's find out. What's the Baghdad battery? Baghdad battery. Oh, the Baghdad battery is a mysterious archaeological artifact discovered in 1936 in the village of Khujut Rabu near Baghdad, Iraq. Believed to date back 2000 years to the Parthian or Sasanian period, it sparked global fascination due to its striking resemblance to a modern galvanic cell. Terracotta jar, copper cylinder, iron rod, and yeah, when the jar is filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar, lemon juice, you're gonna have a small electric current. So clearly, it's a battery. Clearly, no supporting evidence, no surviving wires, conductors. Scroll jar hypothesis. What do I think? What's my opinion? My opinion is that it's very clearly a battery. And you've had ancient Indian texts that speak about how to create a battery, even a series of batteries. So yeah, it's no surprise that batteries existed back in the past. I'm not surprised at all. So my opinion is that the first battery. Yeah. Maharana says, will local AI reshape global asymmetric warfare? It shall. It will. Local AI, distributed AI, non-local AI. Let's see, if you really want to use AI in warfare, you need to have your own AI systems, okay, which are not, protected by guardrails or whatever. The AI should be willing to do whatever it is that you ask of it, right? Which means that it has to be an AI that you control completely, that you have installed in your local hardware, and you have fine-tuned yourself or developed yourself. So yes, if you have that, you certainly can use it in various forms of warfare, including asymmetric warfare, right? Yes, so it can. The answer is yes. Skeptical Potato says, are SSTOs like Skylon now obsolete due to reusable rockets? What other technologies can reduce the cost to space? Is there an economic incentive to settle humans in space? Since robots seem enough, what is SSTOs? What is Skylon? Let's see. SSTO. Oh, come on, man. I said SSTO. A single stage to orbit. A type of spacecraft. Okay. A single undivided vehicle. So are SSTOs now obsolete due to reusable rockets? Well, I'm sure there's still some use for SSTOs, depending on maybe military uses, and maybe you can convert SSTOs into, well, kill vehicles or something. I'm sure there is still some relevance of SSTOs. Yeah, but reusable rockets, of course, are a game changer. No question about that, because you have multiple stages, and the once a stage detaches and its job is done, it can actually return to back to base without the need for just disposing it off as a one-time use thing. So reusable rockets are a game changer, and SSTOs may still have some relevance, perhaps military relevance, but probably military relevance. Yeah. What other technologies can reduce the cost to space? Well, if there's something else, Elon Musk must be pursuing it, but I can't think of anything else right now. The biggest game changer, obviously, is reusable rockets, reusable boosters. What's the other biggest cost that you incur in sending something into space? There's the fuel, the propellant, which I'm sure is not that expensive. And what else? I think Elon Musk has solved the biggest possible problem. Yeah, I can't think of what other. See, the other cost cutting is gonna be incremental, and it's not going to be massive, right? The biggest, most massive thing that you could have done to cut cost has been done. So the other cost cutting is going to be small. So I can't think of what other game changing technologies could reduce the cost of space, unless you can come up with antimatter at scale. In that case, yeah. But yeah, right now antimatter costs trillions of dollars per gram. So no. Yeah. Is there any economic incentive to settle humans in space since robots seem enough? No, no, no. Humans have to go into space and settle down and stake and plant flags, because space is now a geopolitical game. The moon is where the next phase of exploration is going to be. So there's a moon rush going on. There's going to be a scramble for the moon. It's already on. And there's stuff on the moon that everyone wants. Okay. There's stuff that you can exploit right now. There's stuff that could potentially be exploitable in the future. What is it about the moon that is making everybody rush back? India obviously has long term, slow, steady, snail like plans of reaching the moon in 2040. But the US is getting there in the next 2 3 years. The Chinese want to get there by the end of the 2030s or 2020s. By 2030 or so, the Russians are making a move. India, aram se. So, what is it about the moon? First of all, why the South Pole region? Why the South Pole region? Why is everyone looking at that? Why does everyone want to get to the South Pole or in the South Pole region? And India got there first. Does it make any difference? It makes no difference because India did not grab any territory. Uh, First of all, the Chandrayaan 3 lander did not land on the South Pole like some people claim. It landed in the South Pole region. Secondly, the South Pole region has something extremely valuable: water ice. So there are craters in this region that are permanently shadowed. The sunlight never falls in some regions of these craters. And that's where we believe that there could be large quantities of ice, maybe millions of tons of ice. Let's see what the estimates are. Okay, estimates, not which are not verified, but estimates. How much water ice is estimated to exist in the South Pole region of the moon? Estimated. So 600 billion kilograms. Okay. So data from spacecraft like the Chandrayaan missions and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter indicate that the lunar poles hold over 600 billion kilograms of water ice. Okay, that's ridiculous amount of water ice. Now, why go for water ice or whatever? Because if you want to send humans to the moon, you need to send water with them, otherwise they die. Water is heavy. The cost of launching 1 kilogram into space it's pretty expensive, right? Of 1 kilogram of anything, whether it is water or whatever. So if you find water on the moon, the space launches become way cheaper. So you can take that water, whether it's ice or whatever, then turn it into something humans can drink, which obviously is something humans can drink. Secondly, you can use processes like electrolysis to dissociate the H and O molecule atoms in the H2O molecule and produce breathable oxygen. I can stay alive now on the moon in my little habitat. So you can produce as much oxygen as you need. You can also produce hydrogen as a byproduct. And then using the same method of electrolysis, you can dissociate hydrogen and oxygen and use them as rocket fuel. Right? It's a fantastic resource to have on the moon. And then you can have long-term human settlements on the moon. And the humans can prospect for minerals and so much more. And eventually people are going to start claiming territories and planting flags on the moon. So human settlements are very important for this to happen. Karandeep Nair says, I made it to IIT Hyderabad in MTech. I know the Indian education system is garbage, but I still want to be a scientist. And when I do something for my nation, I cannot afford to go abroad. Any guidance? Go for IIT Hyderabad. Get yourself a degree from IIT Hyderabad. And you certainly can become a scientist through that. Right? The IITs are reasonably okay compared to the colleges and everything else. So you can get yourself an Indian degree and still become a world-class scientist. Okay? So if you can't afford to go abroad, go for IIT Hyderabad. Apply yourself. Do the best you can. Get a degree, and then go in and pursue the path that you want. It's perfectly viable as a career option, right? To go via this route that you are proposing over here instead of going abroad. So All the best. Do that. PO says, according to Chinese military and media, we have over 14,000 BrahMos missiles. What do you think of the claim? I think we hide our strength deliberately. Well, I would be extremely pleased if this claim was correct. So, do I know how many BrahMos missiles we have? I don't know. I don't know how many BrahMos missiles we have. Has the Indian government announced that we have so and so numbers of BrahMos missiles? The Indian government has given no indication at all of how many BrahMos missiles it has. I would be very pleased if we have 14,000 BrahMos missiles. I would say it's a good start. Okay? I would say it's a good start. I think we should have more, but I think it's a great number to have. If you have a full scale war going on with somebody, yeah, it's a good number to have to start off with. Do we hide our strength deliberately? I don't know, but I hope so. So I think it's a good number to have. I think we should still ramp it up more, maybe 100,000 or whatever. But 14,000 is it would exceed my expectations. So I'll be very pleased if it is the case. Okay, anonymous scientist says, bonsoir, long time no see. Well, good to see you, sir. Bonsoir. Occupied in UPSC mains preparation. Well, all right. I wish you the best. Prepare well, prepare hard, and I wish you success in your UPSC objectives. Yes. So, occupied in UPSC mains preparation, you really helped me in understanding international relations. I do my best, and I am glad that it was useful for you in understanding international relations. All right, sir. Good to see you again. It's been a while, yes, but always good to have you. Do well, study hard, and crack it. All right. All the best. Anonymous scientist says, why is the US, especially Trump, so hell bent on destroying India US relations? Because the US does not see India anymore as an asset that is controllable by them. The US is resigned to the fact that China is now going to be a permanent rival of theirs. China can no longer be cut back to size. And India is showing no indications or inclinations of wanting the US to allow the US to use India as a counterweight to China, as a tool to be used. India is being too sovereign. So the US has now decided, especially after 2022, that India now must be contained. They don't see any future in investing in good relations with India. They are actually worried about India, that India is this nation of low standards and all these issues, all these defects and deficiencies and problems, and it still keeps growing at 6, 7, 8% per year. If this continues the next 20 years, India is going to become, over a 20-year horizon, the next China, despite all the problems. And they don't want this. They don't want a new emerging China. They've already enough issues with one China. And if India becomes bigger and bigger, it's going to get more and more confident, and even the standards could rise in that case. They don't want that. So they want to contain India right here, right now. They don't care anymore about India-US relations. That's why they're doing this. All right. Gagan CH Verma Vlogs says, did you watch Ilya Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, UFC? I didn't see it. Let's see what happened. Justin Gaethje versus Ilya Topuria. Come on. Oh, Justin Gaethje defeated Ilya Topuria by TKO, corner stoppage, in the 4th round at UFC Freedom 15, Washington, D.C., to capture the undisputed UFC lightweight championship. Oh, really? So this handed Topuria his first professional MMA loss. So it was a back and forth war. Gaethje is obviously a great fighter. He's a great striker. He used to be a wrestler in college or wherever. And Topuria had absorbed significant damage. And the ringside doctor, along with his corner, made the decision to stop the fight before the 5th round. Okay, an epic warrior-spirited performance by Gaethje. All right, good for you, Justin Gaethje. Was he champion before? I'm not sure. He had indeed challenged Khabib for the championship, but he was put to sleep. But anyway, it's good to see him. I like Justin Gaethje. He's taken out a few of the big shots in the past, including El Kukui. He took out El Kukui. So yeah, good for him. Good for him. Okay. PO says Conor versus Max, 11 July. Whom will I be supporting? Who's Max? Max Holloway, is it? Let's see. Conor McGregor, Max Holloway. So it's on the 12th of June. Maybe for us it's 11th of June. So Conor is 22.60 and Max Holloway is 27.90. And they had a fight in 2013. Shogun versus Sonnen. That's a whole lot of time ago. So they fought in 2013 and they're going to fight each other 13 years later. Okay, so whom will I be supporting? Well, I like watching Conor McGregor. I'm not his biggest fan, but he is very entertaining. Very entertaining. This that walk and all that, which he copied from Vince McMahon, by the way. But anyway, he's owned that. He embodies that, and he's very entertaining. He's kind of annoying as well, but in an entertaining way. And he's got a good story behind him, and good origin story, and so on. But whom will I be supporting? I think I may support Max Holloway. Okay. Abhay Singh says Ukraine supposedly manufactured 4 to 7 million drones last year, while our guys were talking about buying 5,000. We are so cooked. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the scale you need. If you have that scale, no one can defeat you. Right? So I don't know if this number is true, is correct or not, but that's the kind of numbers India needs to have. Yeah. And of course, drone technology keeps evolving. So if you manufacture 1 million drones today or this year, and in 2 years' time, you have a whole new drone technology that makes the old ones obsolete. That's also going to be an issue. So what you need is to have a certain stockpile, and also you need to have the ability to churn out drones at scale rapidly using new technology. That's what you need. So look, maybe India hides its strength. Maybe, I hope so. Like a friend earlier said. But this is the scale you need if you are a serious country. Maybe we have it, maybe we don't. I don't know. I know for a fact that the Indian army has been looking at drones for the past 20 years, but looking at something and actually embracing it is a different thing. But we were all pleasantly surprised in Operation Sindoor, right? That we had learned a lot of lessons from what's been happening outside of India. So maybe we are not that far behind. Hopefully. Well, let's hope so. Austin Joseph says, I watched your recent podcast on the Iran-US conflict. Your analysis was excellent. Iran showed strong resilience. Its people united in support of their government and won. What can India learn from this entire matter? What are the lessons that India can learn from the conflict that Iran that was thrust upon Iran by Israel and the United States? And what can India learn from this conflict and from Iran? And what's the cautionary tale that we have to heed when it comes to the failure and the defeat of the US and Israel? Right? That's the question you're asking. So, well, we can't learn the mosaic warfare doctrine from Iran. We can't have a decentralized leadership and so on from Iran, because we have a certain kind of system which will not allow us to make those changes. Right? In India, we have parliamentary democracy, a central government, and federalism. And all. We can't change that. Okay, so that's not possible in the context of the current Indian system. But what are the things we can actually learn? Well, like we were just discussing, invest in drones and missiles at scale. So, first of all, we need to know who our adversaries are. Known adversaries and potential adversaries. Known adversaries we know. One is Pakistan, one is China. Now, when it comes to China, the major Chinese industrial belt and the big cities are way far away from India, like 3,000-4,000 kilometers away. So if you have if a war upon India is thrust upon India by China, we should have a credible way of hitting them where it hurts, which is their industrial base and their big cities, which is far away from India. We haven't opened the map today. It's been a yeah. So let's take a look. See, what am I talking about here? What's Shenzhen? What's Shanghai? How far is it from India? Let's see. Okay. So where's China's industrial belt? Well, the Hong Kong Shenzhen region, right? Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Zhaoqing, Qingyan, Jiangmen, these places. Qingzhou, Xinyang, Changsha, Nanchang, Jinhua, Taizhou, Hangzhou, Shanghai, Shuzhou, Nanjing, Yangcheng, Hefei, Xinyang, Shuku. It's fun saying Chinese words, isn't it? Yaifang, Qingdao, Jinan, Xijiashuang, Kangzhou, Baoding, Tianjin, Tangchang. Ah, yes. Yangjiakao, Datong, Ordo, no, Ordos, Baotu. Yes, Baotu, very historical place. Shri Chinggis Khan was here. Anyway, that's not what we're discussing. My point is, the major Chinese cities are way, way far away from India. So let's say you launch a missile from, let's say, Patliputra, okay, and you want to hypothetically send it somewhere in this region. Let's say the city called Wuhan. How far is it? It's like 3,000 kilometers away. Let's say you want to send a gift to, let's say, I'm hypothetically, I don't know, I'm not saying we should do it, but hypothetically to Shanghai, it's 3,600 kilometers. Let's say you want to send a gift to Beijing from Patliputra. How far is Beijing? 3,300 kilometers. So you need a set of missiles that can go 4,000 kilometers away. Now we have missiles like those, but those are missiles we use for strategic purposes, not for tactical purposes. We have the Agni missiles, right? The Agni missiles cover all of China. But those missiles we only reserve for nuclear delivery, which we never want to use anyway. We don't use those missiles for delivering conventional warheads, cluster munitions, or cluster warheads, or whatever. For delivering conventional stuff, we use the BrahMos missile and maybe some other missiles. So what we need to have a large number of ballistic missiles that we will use for delivering conventional warheads if required. How many? I would say at least 10,000 of those. At least 10,000 ballistic missiles. And we also need a similar or larger number of cruise missiles. Various kinds of cruise missiles. The supersonic ones and the subsonic ones. Maybe hypersonic ones. So the supersonic ones are the BrahMos missiles. The subsonic ones are the Nirbhay missiles. And we have other stuff as well. We have hybrid missiles like whichever it is. Okay. So we need large numbers of that. So the lesson is, first of all, large quantities of missiles. And don't think of ballistic missiles as only nuclear delivery missiles. Use them for conventional delivery, which means you need large numbers of those. So large numbers of ballistic missiles, large number of cruise missiles, hybrid missiles as well, and then drones. Drones, you have to take that at a different scale, maybe 1 million plus. That's what you need. If you have that sort of numbers, nobody will dare bother you. No, we will not deal with India. We will not bother India. Okay? Then you need to be able to create A2AD bubbles. Anti-area access denial. So let's say the United States decides to come and arm twist you using its navy. Did the US aircraft carrier strike groups succeed in intimidating Iran in the Strait of Hormuz? No. The American aircraft carriers stayed far away from the Strait of Hormuz. Why? Because the Iranians knew how to take those things out. They could have obliterated American aircraft carrier strike groups through drone swarms and ballistic missile swarms and cluster munitions from ballistic missiles. That's guaranteed annihilation of American aircraft carriers. Once you have that, if you're India, nobody can arm twist you. US's enterprise can't happen again. So these are the things India can learn. All right. Atul Prasad says, thoughts on Evola. Philosopher who based theories on metaphysics of ancient Indian civilization, read among intellectual ethnonats in the West today. He's regarded as kind of a fascist philosopher, is he? Um, he's a big favorite among Christian supremacists and whatnot. I haven't read this guy too much, but let's see. Evola philosophy TLDR. Let's see. What's it say? Okay, Julius Evola's philosophy is extreme anti-modern esoteric traditionalism. He believed history is a continuous decline from a golden age of spiritual order into mass materialism and egalitarianism, advocating for a return to absolute hierarchy, avoided ethos, and transcendent self-mastery. Very naughty things to say. Very naughty. His ideas center. I mean, how dare you say absolute hierarchy? That is so regressive. Yes. His ideas center around a few core pillars. Radical traditionalism rejects democracy. Oh my goodness. That is very naughty. Very, very bad. Rejects democracy, rejects liberalism, rejects capitalism as soul crushing and decadent. Advocated for an organic caste based society ruled by a spiritual elite. Very naughty, very naughty. Heroic warrior ideal. So he would worship Indra in that case, right? Believes the highest human calling is the active path of the warrior, cultivating absolute inner discipline, courage, and a detached, impersonal sense of self over worldly comforts. Revolt against the modern world. Asserts that human history is a downward spiral into modernity, culminating in the spiritual decay of the present age. Kali Yuga, essentially. Yeah. Esotericism and metaphysics merged politics with mysticism, believing individuals can reconnect with transcendent realities through spiritual practices, magic, and willpower. His late life advice for surviving a world gone too far into decay: riding the tiger. Instead of engaging in hopeless political resistance, he argued for internal detachment, living an uncompromising inner life, and letting the modern world ultimately consume itself. Evola remains a major ideological influence on extreme far right and occult political movements, and is often studied for his radical synthesis of spirituality and authoritarian politics. And I don't want to go further into this. So there is Julius Evola, very naughty, very bad. Caste system he wants. He led by a spiritual elite. Oh my goodness, terrible, very naughty. I can see where the ideas come from. Thoughts on Evola? I think is interesting. I'll say it's interesting. I'll not say anything beyond that. Interesting. Hmm. Revolt against the modern world. Hmm. Okay. Evola. Kali Yuga. Very interesting. So, revolt against the modern world. Let's dive a little deeper into this revolt against the modern world. Or like, okay. Thank you. Please give a TLDR of revolt against the modern world. Okay, let's see. What is this book about? Revolt Against the Modern World is Julius Evola's definitive critique of contemporary civilization. It contrasts a lost, spiritually superior world of tradition with the chaotic, materialistic modern world, arguing that humanity is trapped in the final stages of historical decay, which is clear Kali Yuga references, right? So the book is structured into two core sections. Part one, the world of tradition, divine order. Society was once organized around absolute, immutable metaphysical truths. This is totally. This has nothing to do with Christianity. So first of all, what I'm seeing now is that Evola was harkening back to the pre-Christian days of Europe. What he's talking about is not the Christian era of Europe. He's talking about the pre-Christian era of Europe. That is what he is yearning for. Because the pre-Christian Europe was essentially the same society as India, culturally, spiritually, civilizationally. You had the same culture that manifested itself across Eurasia, starting from India in the east, all the way to the Irish Isles in the west. Same culture manifesting itself in different shapes and forms. And India was the old motherland of the culture. So that's what he is yearning for. Because the world he's describing is not a Christian Europe. It's the pre-Christian Europe. He's talking about a caste system, organized society. He's talking about the society led by a spiritual elite. Well, I suppose we can see what he's talking about there. So let's see further. So part one is the world of tradition, divine order. Society was once organized around absolute, immutable metaphysical truths, sacred kingship. Rulers were not elected but recognized as direct links to the divine. Organic hierarchy. Castes and social classes reflected a natural spiritual order, not economic status. Right. The two paths: men fulfilled their nature through the spiritual path, action or warfare, or the priestly path of contemplation. Part 2: Genesis and face of the modern world. The cycle of decline. History is not progressive but cyclical and currently in a downward spiral. The Kali Yuga. We live in the final age of darkness defined by materialism, individualism, and secularism. Destructive ideologies: nationalism, democracy, communism, and capitalism are viewed as symptoms of spiritual collapse. The final stage: traditional structures have been completely inverted, leading to the triumph of the masses over the elite. Sad. Sad. I'm just saying. In short, the book is a call to intellectual and spiritual rebellion, urging the differentiated man to reject modern values entirely and preserve the inner spark of the ancient world of tradition, which is clearly not the Christian, the age of the Christian age of Europe. It's the pre-Christian Europe that he's talking about, and so on. Okay, I shall not go further into this. Very interesting. So, what are my thoughts? So, I haven't read Evola, like I said, but I just did a very quick, brief analysis or got a brief intro to him. I've been hearing about Evola for a very long time. I've never had the time to look into it. There are people I follow on X and so on, who are not Indians, by the way, okay, who have been talking about Evola for a very long time. And I see this Evola, references to Evola all the time. And I wasn't under the impression that it's about Christianity, but clearly the guy is not a fan of Christianity. So what are my thoughts? My thoughts are that it's intriguing and interesting. Maybe I should get my hands on that book. One of those books, at least, to start off with. I think it's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you, Atul. Yuvraj Bundela says, people talk of Ram Rajya but haven't given a blueprint, governance structure, or statecraft policy. What would it look like, and what are your recommendations to construct it? Okay. Everyone says we want Ram Rajya, but they think democracy is Ram Rajya. We are bringing Ram Rajya back through all these reforms. That's what they say. What exactly is Ram Rajya? Ram Rajya, we have a blueprint. Cat. Okay. We have a large. Anyhow, gone. So we have a blueprint. What's the blueprint? Read the Ramayana. That is Ram Rajya, the Rajya Ram, Shri Ram established. So let me give you a blueprint: governance structure, statecraft policy. Statecraft policy: kill all evil doers. If there is a Ravan out there, you go and kill him. That is statecraft. Now, governance structure. The governance structure is monarchy. Shri Ram was a king. He was not elected in every 5 years through electoral cycles. Shri Ram was a king. He was a morally upright king. He was a traditional king. He listened to his people, sometimes even when they were wrong, because his job was, as king, was to serve his people. He put service of the people and of the nation, of the kingdom, above his personal wishes and desires and those of his family. Oh, he put the interests of the people and the kingdom over his personal interests and the interests of his family. Okay? So for him, leadership was service. The governance structure is what would today be described as dictatorship. It was a monarchy, a hereditary monarchy. Okay? That's what it would look like. Recommendations to construct it? I have no recommendations of how to construct it today. We believe in the Constitution of India, which the people of India have never ratified. That's what we are supposed to say, right? So, what are the recommendations to construct it? The recommendations, I'd rather not recommend those. But that's a Ram Rajya, a hereditary dictatorship. That's what it is. But a benevolent dictatorship, an enlightened dictatorship where leadership is service. That is Ram Rajya. All right. Safi Rahal says, is 50 to 80 million population enough for a modern great power? Please skip ancient history. Or is huge demographic size required to compete today? Let us say I am one man. I have all the intelligence I need because I developed my own AI system in my own hardware. It just cost me, let's say, let's say it cost me less than $1 million to do it. So one person can do it if you are sufficiently enterprising. Then let's say, so essentially you don't need 50 to 80 million population. You need 10,000 people of quality and the tools that modern technology gives you. You don't need 50 to 80 million population. You need 10,000 people of quality and proper leadership and a vision. That's all you need. And you need information of about who matters and so on. You need information. If you have information and all that, you can change the whole world. Okay. See, I skipped ancient history. You don't need 50 to 80 million people. You need 10,000 is enough. 10,000 active. Done deal. Arakan says, search China's, I know, final China's final warning. Final warning, sir. You US, you very bad. We give final warning. 78th final warning. Yes. Stop your behavior. So China's final warning means China keeps on giving final warnings, and those final warnings are meaningless. That's the point. I know what it is. I know people who have introduced me to these terms. So is China way weaker than they look? Some analysts say China will never attack Taiwan because they're cowards. True. Is China weaker than they look? Not necessarily. The biggest mistake India can make is to underestimate China. The US doesn't underestimate China, so we should not. Some analysts say China will never attack Taiwan because they're cowards. Those analysts are playing psychological games. Okay? I myself have obviously, if you know, I myself have said on multiple occasions that China is an extremely risk-averse nation. But it makes sense to be risk-averse as long as it as things are too risky. Whenever things are too risky, don't go into it. So China is, I would say, a risk-averse nation, sensibly so. Are they cowards? I don't know about that. But it's a risk-averse nation. Will China never attack Taiwan? I would not be sure about that. Ayush Modi says, how will El Nino affect India? Future consequences. Look, I am not a meteorologist. I am not a climate scientist. So I don't know what's going on. Is there a massive El Nino that's brewing this year? Because from what I hear, in the southern parts of India, the monsoon is progressing on schedule. Let's find out. Is the monsoon progressing in India on schedule this year, or is it delayed thus far? The monsoon is currently delayed in its progression across India. After promising a swift start over Kerala, the southwest monsoon lost momentum and entered a prolonged pause in its northward advancement, resulting in countrywide rainfall deficits. Which is very strange because today morning I was in Delhi and there was rainfall. The past 3 days there was rainfall on and off in Delhi. So is that unseasonal rainfall that I saw in Delhi the past 3 days? I don't know. Okay, let's see more. Stalled progress. The monsoon is blah blah. Arrival Mumbai, which happens June 9 to June 11, is delayed by more than a week. Okay, the city is experiencing one of the driest June periods in 2 decades. Significant rainfall. So in Mumbai, Rainfall arrives by the 10th of June, roughly, and it's delayed right now. Okay, well, that's concerning. Um, okay, so looks like there's an issue. Looks like the monsoon is delayed, and that could be a consequence of this year's El Nino situation. Future consequences. Look, if the monsoon is delayed, if there's a shortfall of rainfall this year, obviously the government will have to take measures and all that. It could affect crops and so on. So we'll have to import stuff from other countries to make up for the shortfall. But if it's a global phenomenon, it could complicate things a little bit more, I suppose. Yeah, so maybe this year won't be the best if this persists. Yeah. Okay. Ashutosh Malgaonkar says, from containment perspective, what causes people to betray Bharat? Feels like US has a nastier culture, so that can't be it. Only thing I can think is money. Well, for most people, the what is the case for a lot? First of all, it's not like it's only India where you have people who betray the country for money. That is a phenomenon across human society, across human beings, across the world. For example, check this out. The year of the spy. So let's remove that. The year of the spy, 1985. Okay. John Anthony Walker, Ronald Pelton, Larry Wu Tai Chin. That's just three. There's more. The Walker spy ring. Americans spying on America itself. Americans betraying the United States. Okay, let's see how many. John Anthony Walker, Richard Kelly Smith, Sharon Screenage, Larry Wu Tai Chin. Larry Wu Tai Chin was born in Beijing. Jonathan Pollard. Oh, okay. American-born Israeli spy. Is Ronald Pelton, Randy, Miles Jeffries, Edward Lee Howard, and so on. So many spies being exposed and caught in just 1 year in the United States. So it's not like it's only India that suffers from this, okay? US is a nasty culture, so that can't be it. What causes somebody to betray Bharat? Typically money. Typically money. Most people sadly have a price. See, everybody has needs and wants and desires and aspirations and dreams and so on. Everybody wants money. Money can solve most problems in life. They tell you money can't buy you happiness. They're lying to you. Money can buy you most things. Money can solve most problems. For a lot of people, a little bit of money is a lot. For a lot of Indian former alleged officials, a bottle of scotch was enough. So what causes people to betray Bharat? Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it is a white man patting you on the back. Good boy, good boy. Sometimes it's a bottle of scotch. Sometimes it is maybe religion. Sometimes whatever. There's all kinds of reasons why people betray the country. But the major reason typically is just money. Yeah. Typically it's money. Some people get honey trapped or whatever. There's all kinds of things, Okay. Okay, Dheeraj Kamath says a hateful Hinduphobe, playboy, etc. is claiming every Hindu is casteist and inviting Hindus to eat beef. How can it be tolerated? Perma ban him. What's his name? Playboy Cartel 7. Let me see. Can I find this person? Quantum Yuga? No. Playboy Cartel. Oh, yeah. I can see the person. Should I do that? As you are saying? That is typically the job of my moderator, but my moderator may be asleep perhaps now. Maybe it is night time in their part of the world. Yeah, you know what? I will look into this later on. I shall not act upon this right now immediately. Because my job is to answer questions right now instead of looking into moderation. Okay, so thank you for letting me know. I'll look into it later. Krishant Bordoloy says, have you seen UK Pakistani rape gang reports 250,000 victims? I haven't read the whole thing, but I'm aware of what's going on, and it's no big surprise. And the people of the UK should be ashamed of themselves. Bunch of cowards and losers. Atul Prasad says Evola was against Christianity, but later was less against, thinking that remnants of traditional European hierarchy existed in Catholic Church. They didn't have living dharmic tradition, wouldn't apply to Indians. Okay, so you seem to have looked into Evola's writings. So he was against Christianity, but later was less against, thinking that remnants. So maybe some remnants of traditional European hierarchy existed in Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was fully hierarchical, but it was completely adharmic, non-dharmic. Let's say. Obviously, it's non-dharmic, adharmic, the same thing. The old European culture was a version of dharma. The pre-Christian culture, tradition, religion was dharmic in its own way. Maybe it distorted dharma, right? Not obviously Vedic anymore, which would make our ancestors call them mlechas or whatever. But it was some twisted, distorted version of dharma. Some of them may have had human sacrifices allegedly, like the Romans claimed or whatever. May or may not be true. Maybe it was propaganda, but it was polytheism. It was dharma. The same gods were worshipped in local forms. So the European hierarchy that later emerged in the Catholic Church was a totally different thing. The Catholic Church was obviously hierarchical, but it was organized in an Abrahamic military fashion, not in the dharmic version of societal, division of labor or whatever it was. And they did not have a living dharmic tradition. So yeah, right. So Evola seems to be really interesting for sure. Atul Prasad says, why is Taoism similar to Sanatan philosophy like Advaita? I haven't studied Taoism. Taoism doesn't have, as far as I know, any belief in God. There's no belief in God in Taoism, as far as I know. Let me just check it. Is Taoism atheistic in nature? Is Taoism atheistic in nature? It's not strictly atheistic in the traditional sense. It lacks a belief in a personal creator God. It's highly spiritual and metaphysical. It focuses on the Tao, an impersonal, natural, universal force. So that's kind of, mysticism and all that. So it's not strictly atheistic, but yeah. So I'm not an expert in Taoism. I haven't studied, so I can't really say, unfortunately. Okay, Piyush Sinha says, I grew up in Bhagalpur, Bihar, where traces of uranium have been found in groundwater. Since childhood, I had stomach problems from this water. Elsewhere, I'm fine, but Bhagalpur water always makes me sick. A country not able to deliver safe drinking water to its people should not talk about competing with the US or China. Yeah, so you've got to solve these basic problems for sure. And it is unacceptable that in the 20th century you still have issues of just safe drinking water in India. I completely agree with you. That is unacceptable, right? But until recently, a lot of people in the country did not have any drinking water at all. A lot of people in the country did not have electricity. So those very basic things have been solved just recently. Now I suppose we can increase the quality of stuff. So yes, I agree with you that it's unacceptable and it needs to be addressed at the earliest. I agree with you totally. Abhigyan Arya, thank you very much. Abhigyan Arya. Abhijit Kumar says, your views on God, Bhakti, Dharma, Karma, Moksha, etc. I think it's all fantastic. I think it's all part of our very ancient traditions. And I am all in favor of this. I think we should respect our traditions. We should keep them alive. And we should take them further to the next level. That's my views on all of this. Aries Manticore, good to see you, says, the UK RG inquiry report was terrifying to read. I deliberately did not read that. There's enough darkness in the world. I don't need to be exposed to that. Anyway, it was terrifying to read. While I despise partition, a part of me feels that maybe we escaped a worse fate for now. Look, partition solved nothing. Okay. And even if we had not been partitioned, if we had the right kind of leadership, none of what you have read in that could have happened in India. If you had someone like Subhash Chandra Bose, you think any of these things would have happened in India even if we had not been partitioned? He would have dealt with everything with an iron fist. All you need is the right leadership. If you had somebody like the great Mr. Nehru, then yeah. So you need the right leadership, like I say. The the KD Kamath says, Namaste, Namaste Ji. Given how much damage Russia is taking, do you think there are limits to their conventional firepower, especially given their manufacturing and capital limits? Or am I misreading the situation? Well, Russia is kind of opaque. We don't know what's really happening in there. As far as I understand, they have massive capabilities. Their conventional firepower should be massive. They have a completely unused air force, massive air force. They have unlimited resources. They have a large population. They have a highly skilled population. So I don't understand what's happening in Russia. Why are they tolerating what's happening, what's being done, and why are they willingly absorbing this damage? And why are they not responding? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Are there limits? Maybe there are limits we're not aware of, or maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Kajuro Bitathon says, does India need to be more mindful of its water resources? I keep hearing we have water concerns, yet exporting rice, sugarcane, ethanol blending, now data centers. Do we have water issues or not? India is one of the most water scarce regions on the planet. If you see how much water we have access to on a per capita basis, we have one of the lowest amounts of water available per capita in the world. Huge population, limited land area, and limited water. We have to be very careful. We have water issues, we have water scarcity. We have to be very mindful of our water resources. So yes, we have water concerns. Exporting rice, sugarcane, all that is fine. Ethanol blending is nothing to do with water, but data centers could be an issue if we have them cropping up all over India because they will need water. We have to be very mindful of our water resources. We are a very water scarce country overall. Panchar says, why is that you spend less time on 200 question compared to rupee 40? It's not fair, sir. Quality of the question matters. Okay? Ask me good questions. I'll spend more time on that. Right? Ayush Modi says, when the Ramayana was happening, especially in the Indian subcontinent, what was happening in other parts of the world? Do you think that others were involved? We don't know. See, the question you're asking me, to answer it properly, I need to know exactly when the Ramayana happened, right? Roughly, not exactly necessarily, but roughly when it happened. Did it happen in 5000 BC? Around that time, plus or minus 500 years. Did it happen in 7000 BC, plus or minus 500 years? Did it happen in 1000 BC, like some people claim? When exactly did it happen? If I know that, only then can I answer your question in any shape or form. The problem is we have no idea when it happened. There are all kinds of theories put forth by various great researchers, and they all disagree with each other. So I will not even go into this question of when did the Ramayana happen. So I don't know when it happened. That's my answer, unfortunately. So since I don't know when it happened, how can I say what was happening elsewhere? I can't, right? Logically, I can't. So that's why I don't have an answer to that question right now, unfortunately. All right. So that seems to be the last super chat for today. All right, that's fine. So we can end this live stream right here, right now, I suppose. Yeah, this is more like a traditional live stream, a 2 hour, 15-minute live stream. So, all right, let's end this here. This was a rather unusual live stream because I am doing it here today on a Friday. It's typically tomorrow that I do it, but tomorrow I am traveling once again. This is a week of a lot of travel for me today. So I am here in this room briefly today for a few hours, and then tomorrow morning early I'm out again flying off. So I'll see you on Sunday evening. Until then, take care, everybody. Keep learning, keep raising your standards, keep asking questions. And I look forward to talking with you all on Sunday evening, India time. Until then, take care. For now, good night, goodbye. See you soon.